So this is one way you could do this. This is a user-centered workshop in journey mapping that we did. I'm also on the associate board for the Pacific Science Center, and so some of the good folks at Nordstrom's partnered together, and we did a workshop here for journey mapping. And you can do it journey mapping. What is the customer journey? You can talk about experience. You can talk about workflow. If you have a more of an intangible product, you can look at those customer intersects. So here we sent a survey before to the recipients of the that were going to participate in this panel. And we really made sure that the panel and the group was really diverse. None of us could invite more than 3 people. And so we made sure that there were people in different demographics, people we didn't know, and people that were really representative of the people we were trying to target. We sent a short survey. We used that survey to come up with categories that we could divide them in, go deeper. We gave people some stickies, and for a while we had them write, just ideate on what's there, and then we categorized them. Then we had the group switch, and we had the people vote on the ideas that they liked best, and then we came back and crystallized that, and we formed and that way we retained the group and grown. What did you like about that? And now we have this community of insiders that are also early along for the journey. For MindSpan, we did something a little bit different, and I recommend this as well. So here is just simple usability tests, and you don't need to do anything drastic with this. We actually use Sketch and Envision. You can use Balsamic. You can use cards. It doesn't need to be that drastic. And what we made sure it's one-on-one. There are at least 2 people taking notes. We recorded it. We gave a set script people to perform tasks, and we watched how people perform the tasks. Where did they hover, where they didn't? And that's why I like Envision, because you can simulate. If it's a website you're building, you can simulate it quite well. And you have the person, of course, talk out loud as they're going through the steps, so you can see where they're struggling and where it's not. We actually found this invaluable. We went through 3 design sets because we had one that was too simplistic, one that was a beautiful design, it was too hard to execute and follow, and then this was the Goldilocks of the design, so we went with this. We found that really valuable. And you can do this, even though I say early stage, if you're trying to introduce a new feature, that also works. And this was for people who take pictures of the slides. You can also go after social media, but when I say if you use social media for customer feedback, I'm not actually talking about the likes. Run an ad, set up a group. You can try different things in Google as well. Set up an Instagram page. But if you're going to use some testing and looking for customer interaction, you better have a really good pulse of what's happening in those social media sites, and they move quickly, and set up some keywords. And you might actually want to see what your competition is doing in this space too, because this is a very visible way to see how your competition might be experimenting. But as your product grows, there's some other mechanisms that come into play. And if you take nothing else away from this talk tonight, it's the voice of the customer. And really understanding where these customer intersects are, and then make sure that you have a feedback mechanism at every one of those customer intersects, especially at the front line. So several months ago, I had the great pleasure of meeting Jim Donald, one of the former presidents of Starbucks. And one of the first things he did when he started at Starbucks is he went back to the front line, and he wanted to find a store where he could work in, and he could interact with the customers and talk to the baristas, because he understood very well that if we don't get this, our core value proposition right, this is our core product to the consumers, we're not going to be successful. And he learned that from Sam Walton directly. Sam used to work at Walmart, and Sam Walton told him, you are never, ever, ever too small for the front line. And at Expedia as well, we used to take rotations in the customer service centers. It's just a great way to keep forward. And this was a very early journey map. I think even before I really knew how to do a journey map, it was a way for me to think, what's the happy path? What's the unhappy path? What's the expected behavior? What might go right? What might go wrong? And what can we do about it? But I would recommend, no matter how you do it, take a path for the customer's intersects, whether it's a workflow diagram or others. Now to go to NPS or Net Promoter Score. How many people here are familiar with NPS? Great. And those of you who didn't raise your hand, you will have an opportunity to interact with the Net Promoter Score either tonight or early tomorrow, because we're going to send you one to get feedback on what we're doing right, where there's opportunity for products that count. But here, this has actually been around for a while, since 2003. So we're starting to see some statistics about the efficacy and how well this works. One, you get a lot more engagement because it's so simple. It's not a long CSAT questionnaire. It's two things. Tell me what you are likely to recommend, and that vetting, recommend is the key word here, because you're more likely to think about it to a product, on a scale to 0 to 10 to a friend or colleague, and then always include a comment box. So we know that if a person scores us a 9 or a 10, we're probably going to get 3 to 8 times the lifetime value out of that particular customer. We want to know what we're doing well, and then we'll continue to replicate that. 7 and 8 are passive, and then 1 through 6 are detractors in here. Companies that have high NPS scores tend to do 2 times the growth of their competition. So there is a lot there, and it's so simple. And then back to analytics. So on analytics, there's a lot of different ways. Again, remember the objective versus subjective. If you're using Google Analytics, really know how to set it up, because that can tell you a lot more information if you're setting up your events and your call to actions, and really understanding what data goes in. And if you don't know how to set it, Google has some fantastic courses. Mixed Panel, where you're sitting, they're kind enough to host us tonight. They have some great analytical tools that can do a bit of overlay and show you where those spikes are. And then there's, of course, HubSpot and Amplitude. And Segment is a way to stitch together a lot of these. Those are some of the products I like. But definitely watch the vanity versus action. Yeah, it might feel good that a lot of people are coming to your site, but are they transacting? How long are they staying? Are they coming back? And then know your product goal. Maybe coming to your site and staying around for a while is what you want to do, and you want to grow that particular audience, but are they sharing? So make sure you know your goals coming in, especially if you set that up. That's great. So now you have some feedback, but if you don't act on it, you might as well not ask for it.